At the end of this video, you will be able to answer who is a hacker, what is ethical hacking, what are the different types of hackers, what's the need for ethical hacking, what are the common tools for ethical hacking, and what are the legal and ethical considerations of being an ethical hacker. So let's get started. When I first say the word hacker, what comes to your mind? Because for me, ethical hacking is like being a digital detective. It's like finding vulnerabilities in systems before the bad guys can do so. It's about using all your skills for doing good, not evil. Hacker is someone who uses their technical skills to gain unauthorized access to systems or network. This is a hacker. An unethical hacker does the same thing but for the good of the company. Ethical hacker is like the Robin Hood of the digital world. Here, the hackers use their powers for good, testing, probing, and securing systems to protect against malicious attackers. It's like the difference between a locksmith and a burglar. Here, both the locksmith and the burglar have the key and know how to pick a lock, but only one of them has your interest at heart. So we are going to be ethical hackers. We are going to be the Robin Hoods of digital world. We're going to use our technical skills and our knowledge for the good of society. So to be a great ethical hacker, one has to think like a hacker. You have to be constantly curious, creative, and always ask, what if? Remember, curiosity is your strongest weapon when it comes to ethical hacking. So like I said, ethical hacking is gaining unauthorized access to a system or a network. In ethical hacking, authorized access, I'm so sorry. Ethical hacking is authorized access, and this is done to help identify security vulnerabilities that can be resolved before a malicious attacker has the opportunity to exploit them. And the steps included in ethical hacking are, first of all, reconnaissance. Reconnaissance is nothing but gathering information about the target system and what security measures they have in place. It's like doing your research about what company you're trying to hack into. Secondly, scanning. Scanning is identifying the vulnerabilities in their networks or systems. So now that you've done your research on the company or the target system, you're going to look for the vulnerabilities and weaknesses, for example, in their network, in their OS, in their open ports, or if it's a website, we're seeing like if the website is open to injections, such things. And the third part, and most important part, is gaining access. Gaining access is once we've targeted the system, once we've identified its vulnerability, gaining access is exploiting those vulnerabilities to get yourself into the system or the network or the application. Next, we are going to maintain our access. The hacker secures access to the system and uses this to do privilege escalation and launch more attacks. Always remember, the point is to see if it can be done, not to actually do it, because we are ethical hackers. And finally, it's covering tracks. It's making sure that nobody has found out that you hacked into their system. A hacker removes traces of all their activity to avoid detection. This includes erasing their logs and monitoring systems and all. So these are concepts of ethical hacking. So when I said hacker, I told you there was a good guy and a bad guy. What other types of hackers are there? There are many kinds of hackers actually. White hat, black hat, grey hat, red hat, blue hat, sometimes purple hat. And there are script kiddies, there are hacktivists, and there are cyber terrorists. Let's explore a few of them briefly. Okay, white hat hackers. We are white hat hackers. White hat hackers are cybersecurity professionals who find and fix security vulnerabilities in computer systems, and they are also known as ethical hackers. Basically, a white hat hacker is someone who has a permission or who is authorized to hack into a system so that they can find the flaws in the system and help the company fix those flaws. That person is known as a white hat hacker. Black hat hacker is a malicious hacker. He is an attacker. He's a cyber criminal who accesses computer systems and networks without permission and to cause harm. They exploit the vulnerabilities in the software and systems to steal data or extort money. They don't do it for the good of the system. They don't do it for the good of the company. They do it for themselves. And grey hat hacker is like a mixture of both white hat hacker and grey hat hacker. Like black hat hackers, grey hat hackers don't have the permission to hack into a system, but like white hat hackers, they don't mean any harm to your company. They just want to point out that you have these vulnerabilities. Like, let me give you a simple example. Imagine like Batman and the Joker were hackers. So Batman would be white hat hacker. He is using his skills to protect Gotham City's data, while the Joker would be the black hat hacker, just maliciously causing cyber attacks just for his fun. And grey hat hacker would probably be Catwoman dancing between both the sides, white hat and grey hat. So grey hat hacker is a computer security expert who breaks into systems without permissions to find vulnerabilities. But unlike malicious hackers, they are not going to cause any harm to your system. So this is a fun little animation about a a black hat hacker and a white hat hacker. Both try to penetrate into your system, but one, the black hat, is doing it for his own purposes, to extort money from you, or to steal your data, or to cause damage to your system. Whereas the white hat hacker is trying to get into your system to show you that it can be done and to show you how you can stop that from being done to you. And few other types of hackers are red hat hackers, green hat hackers, and blue hat hackers. Red hat hackers are characterized as vigilantes. They consider themselves to be like Avengers or Batman or something like that, like superheroes. They use their skills for the good of someone, but they don't have the permission to do it actually. Like white hat hackers, red hats seek to disarm black hats, but two group methodologies are very different. Rather than hand the black hat over to the authorities, red hats launch aggressive attacks against them to bring them down. So basically, red hat hackers are unauthorized cyber police. They consider themselves to be cyber police. And then there are green hat hackers. These are known as script kiddies or wannabe hackers. They don't have enough skills to become an actual hacker, so they just copy paste attacks or payloads into your system, and they just do it for fun or because they are eager to learn the trade. And then there are blue hat hackers, which are very, very similar to white hat hackers actually. A blue hat hacker is a highly skilled ethical hacker hired by a company to identify and assess security vulnerabilities in their systems before they are released and launched to the public. So basically, they are white hat hackers, but their job is to fix the vulnerabilities before the project is launched into public. Whereas white hat hacking job never ends. You have to constantly keep monitoring your system and constantly keep trying to fix new vulnerabilities and new threats. So these are the basic kind of hackers. There are several others like cyber terrorists and nation-sponsored attackers and all, but we don't come across them as much. Okay, we need to know the basics: white hat hacker, black hat hacker, grey hat hacker, and these are just some additional bonus data. So we've understood the types of ethical hackers. We know what an ethical hacker is and what they do. But the question is, why do we need them? What role do they play in today's day and age? First of all, we need ethical hackers so that they can identify our vulnerabilities. Suppose you are a bank or a hospital or even a government. You don't know what kind of vulnerabilities you have in your system. You need an ethical hacker, a person who can think like a hacker but who won't act like a hacker, to conduct security assessments and penetration testing to find all the weaknesses in your systems, networks, and applications. If you don't hire an ethical hacker, these unidentified vulnerabilities are going to become your biggest weakness and let hackers, actual malicious hackers, take advantage of your system. And when ethical hackers find vulnerabilities, they report their findings. After discovering vulnerabilities, ethical hackers provide detailed report with recommendation for remediation. What's the point of finding a vulnerability if you don't know about it? So after finding a vulnerability, an ethical hacker has to provide a detailed report to the company saying that you have so and so vulnerabilities and this is how you fix it. And the third and probably very important part, not probably, like really important part, is improving security measures. Organizations use the insights from ethical hackers to enhance their security protocols, patch vulnerabilities, and implement best practices. These hackers, ethical hackers, know how the actual hackers think. They know the thought process and where to look for threats and where to look for vulnerabilities. So when they give us security measures, it's very good practice to implement those security measures. And they provide training and awareness. An ethical hacker often trains employees and raises awareness about cybersecurity threats and safe practices. In a previous video, we explored that there are human vulnerabilities and network vulnerabilities and process vulnerabilities. Without proper training and awareness, human vulnerability will become our biggest problem. If someone is not aware of cybersecurity, they are more prone to ignoring the vulnerabilities and threats and they are more prone to being attacked by hackers because they are not aware about it. So the job of an ethical hacker is to train the employees of a company to raise awareness about cybersecurity so that they are on guard. They won't fall for phishing scams or attacks or all such cyber frauds. And finally, staying ahead of threats. Ethical hackers stay up to date with the latest hacking techniques and trends, ensuring that organizations are prepared for emerging threats. Let me give you an example of how this happens in real world. Okay, so for example, let's take the banking institutions or financial institutions. A bank hires an ethical hacker to simulate an attack on their online banking platform. The ethical hacker discovers a vulnerability in the authentication process, which they quickly report. The bank patches the flaw, preventing potential data breaches. You see how important this concept is, this idea is. If the ethical hacker had not found the vulnerability in the authentication process, a malicious attacker would very easily get the bank account details, credit card details, OTPs of the customers and lead to huge financial losses of not just the bank but also the customers. Securing e-commerce platform is another example. An ethical hacker is hired by an online retailer to test their website security. The hacker finds an insecure API endpoint that could be exploited to access customer data. The retailer fixes the issue, protecting their customers' information. So here the customer's information would include their name, date of birth, their ID cards, their addresses, their credit card information, their previous purchase records, their subscriptions. All of these are vulnerable to an attacker. So by using an ethical hacker, the e-commerce platform can identify this vulnerability and protect their customers' data, which is a very big responsibility. And the same can be said about healthcare systems. If a malicious hacker gets into the healthcare system, they can get very private information of every patient there. They can get their billing history and what medicines they take. It's a huge breach of trust and also data. And strengthening government agencies is non-negotiable. A government agency hires ethical hackers to test their cybersecurity measures. The hackers identify weakness in the agency's network that could be exploited by malicious actors. The agency takes action to fortify their defenses and protect national security. So ethical hackers are also a part of national security when they work towards strengthening government websites or government agencies. So this is an era of digital data, like we've discussed previously. Everything is online, even our healthcare and government services and our shopping records and banking records are online. And ethical hackers make sure that whichever company you are trusting your data with, they can keep your data safe. These are some of the tools. Don't worry much about it if you don't know any of these tools. We are not going to go too in depth in this video because in the future we are going to come across these tools anyway and we are also going to use them. So this is just a brief glimpse of what tools an ethical hacker uses for scanning, reconnaissance, creating the payload, delivering the payload, and all such things. Moving on, ethical hacker has the word ethics in it. So we need to consider the ethical considerations and the legal considerations of being an ethical hacker. The ethical considerations are honesty and transparency. An ethical hacker should always disclose their activities and report their findings to the authorized parties. If you find a vulnerability as an ethical hacker, it is your responsibility, not only ethical responsibility but also legal responsibility to report this finding of a vulnerability to the company. That is what you are being paid to do. Consent and authorization. They must obtain explicit permission from the system owner before conducting security testing. If you don't obtain proper permissions, you're not going to be an ethical hacker. You're going to be a grey hat hacker, which is not a good idea. You always need to have the permission of the company or the system or the network that you're trying to hack into. That is what makes you an ethical hacker. And confidentiality. Any sensitive data accessed during ethical hacking should be protected, and that is non-negotiable and not disclosed to any unauthorized parties. Avoid harm. Testing should be conducted carefully to prevent accidental damage to the systems or unintended data loss. Before testing or penetration testing a system, make sure that you back up all of your information so that there is no unintended data loss. And finally, accountability. Ethical hackers must take responsibility for their actions and ensure that their testing is lawful and beneficial. This is very, very important. Now that we've seen the ethical considerations, let's see what are the legal constraints upon ethical hacking. Ethical hacking standards such as CEH, which stands for Certified Ethical Hacker, and ISO 27001 and the NIST Cybersecurity Framework play a vital role in shaping ethical hacking practices. Additionally, there are also legal and regulatory standards like GDPR, HIPAA, and PCI DSS. Now let's see what PCI DSS is because it looks interesting. PCI DSS stands for Payment Card Industry Data Security Standards. Like the name says, PCI DSS is there to secure your cards, your credit cards. It's a set of guidelines that help protect credit card information from breaches and fraud. One of the most frequently happening cyber crime or cyber fraud is stealing the details of credit cards and banking information. PCI DSS ensures that companies that store, process, or transmit credit card information keep it safe. So this would include e-commerce websites, banking websites, healthcare websites, and anyone who uses your credit card information. It helps prevent, detect, and respond to security incidents. Applies to all merchants who accept credit cards, debit cards, or prepaid cards. And who created the standard? American Express, Discover, JCB, MasterCard, and Visa created the PCI Security Standard Council to manage the PCI DDS. And these companies are responsible for enforcing compliance regulations. That is about PCI DDS. This is to ensure that your financial information is safe. Similarly, we have HIPAA. This makes sure that your healthcare related information is safe. HIPAA stands for Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. It is a US regulation designed to protect sensitive patient health information from being disclosed without consent. If you remember, one of the examples we used to understand the need for ethical hacking was healthcare industry. Healthcare industry stores a lot of your data, and it is very important that they store this properly and make sure that it doesn't fall into the wrong hands. And HIPAA enforces strict security standards for healthcare organizations, ensuring the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of medical data through encryption, access controls, and compliance monitoring. And the final standard we are going to discuss is GDPR. General Data Protection Regulation is a European law designed to protect personal data and privacy for individuals in the European Union. This is for the European Union, but there are also such acts for America, India, and whatever country you can take of. Data protection and privacy laws are very stringent and they have to be maintained if you are an ethical hacker. GDPR enforces strict rules on data collection, processing, and storage, ensuring transparency, user consent, and the right to data access or deletion. Organizations must comply with GDPR to avoid heavy penalties and maintain user trust. So these are few of the regulations and legal standards for ethical hackers. There are many more regulatory standards. You can take it as a homework to see what regulatory standards India has especially. So now that we've discussed ethical hacking, like you've gotten a brief intro into what ethical hacking is, let me introduce you to an exciting career option known as bug bounty hunting. So what exactly is bug bounty? Bug bounty programs are like initiatives where organizations are going to reward ethical hackers for discovering and reporting vulnerabilities in their system. So the bug is a weakness, and you are going to hunt for this weakness and report it to the company, and they are going to pay you for your services. The point is like to be a digital detective and find all these vulnerabilities before the malicious actors, malicious like hackers, can get to them. You just enroll into any platform or directly register with an organization, and then you do your reconnaissance, like study the target system, identify potential vulnerabilities, all those steps we discover, and then you exploit. Like when you find a vulnerability, you responsibly exploit so that you can tell your organization that this is the vulnerability I found and this is how I can exploit it, or how a malicious hacker would exploit it. And then the organization would verify that your vulnerability is actually legitimate and it can be exploited maliciously, and then they reward you. So that is known as bug bounty. After learning ethical hacking, this is one of the career choices for you, is to become a bug bounty hunter. So to summarize what we've learned in the past few minutes, we've learned what ethical hacking is. It's legally breaking into systems to find and fix security flaws. The primary goal is to identify vulnerabilities and strengthen security measures to prevent malicious attacks. And then we saw what are the different types of hackers: white hat hacker, black hat hacker, and grey hat hacker. And then we explored the steps of ethical hacking and the ethics and regulations that are involved in ethical hacking, and also a brief glimpse at the tools, like, the vulnerability scanners, password crackers, and all. I know I didn't explain what those tools are, but don't worry about it. We are going to use all of their tools, and when we come across them, I'm going to explain and also show you how to use them. So that's all for this video. We've gotten a brief introduction into ethical hacking. And until the next video, have a wonderful time.